SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition technology, now often infused with AI, helps manufacturers manage mountains of data and form insights that inspire better decision-making.
Cloud ERP really sits at the center of our solution portfolio. And that is for a good reason, right? Because it supports all the most critical business processes of companies out of the box.
There's a common myth that manufacturing processes are too complex for a software as a service ERP, but nothing is too complex for SAP. Welcome to this expert talk. I'm Maria Silipo, and I'm joined by 3 experts who will prove that this myth is completely wrong. In this talk, we will explain how production engineering from product lifecycle integration and change management and production planning with demand forecasting and material requirement planning work in a cloud ERP system. Spoiler alert, we will also talk about the role AI plays in this, so stay with us until the end. Now please welcome with me our 3 experts. Here in the studio we have Markus Oertelt, who came all the way here from Switzerland, and Jakob Schneller. And on screen we have Katarzyna, Gerken from our SAP office in Munich. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi Maria.
As mentioned before, we are here to talk about the role SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition plays in elevating manufacturing companies to make the best out of their businesses. But before we get into the beef of this topic, Jakob, would you please give us an overview?
Absolutely. So I think to get an idea how our SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition is positioned in the overarching context of SAP solutions, it makes a lot of sense to look at our overarching portfolio of solutions. And I think what grabs the attention here immediately is that Cloud ERP really sits at the center of our solution portfolio. And that is for a good reason, right? Because it supports all the most critical business processes of companies out of the box. What do I mean when I say out of the box? I mean really that we, with our public edition solution especially, deliver our 50 years of ERP experience basically prepackaged in best practices content, which means that processes come out of the box and pre-configured. And that, of course, saves a lot of time when you implement a solution and really simplifies also this process. And I would say if we look at those critical processes, it also comes it's pretty clear that especially product-centric companies will really benefit from our Cloud ERP solution, because Cloud ERP really contributes to many processes that are relevant there. For example, idea to market. In the idea to market process, it's all about product lifecycle management and basically the design of new products. Then, of course, plan to fulfill, where it also has a huge contribution from actually planning production, doing the manufacturing execution, down to the actual fulfillment of the logistics aspects of the process, so basically shipping the goods to the customer. And finally, also we offer some maintenance management processes that contribute to the overarching acquire to decommission process. Focus of today's session is production, and it makes a lot of sense to not only look here at production planning and production execution, but also at the, let's say, product lifecycle management piece that comes before. So how do we basically generate product relevant data, and how do we bring it over into the manufacturing process? And if you look here at the screen, you see actually that brings a lot of synergies, right? On the one hand side, we can consume the engineering data seamlessly in our production processes, and even better, later on, we can learn from our production processes and feed this data back into our product design, making it really a very efficient closed loop that we can offer here.
That sounds very promising, Jakob. Now, can you please share more details about what customers can expect here and what is in for them?
Absolutely. So if we look at the 3 phases here, ranging from handover and manage, which is style of the idea to market process, and later on then also along plan and schedule and manufacture and control, which is part of the plan to fulfill process, we start at the left-hand side, which is the handover and manage portion of the process. And there, as mentioned, it is all about how do we get the engineering data, the product design data from a potential PLM system into the ERP world. And S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition comes here with 2 options to really give our customers full flexibility. One option would be to integrate into third-party PLM systems. And the other option, of course, would be to integrate in our own SAP product lifecycle management solution, which is a cloud-based PLM solution. If the data is then in the ERP system, then we, of course, offer a broad set of capabilities to also handle the data there, which ranges from a quite comprehensive bill of material management up to actually a change management process that allows to basically change, for example, a bill of material in a structured and fully transparent manner. And I think Markus can tell a lot about this change process and how we handle that.
Yeah, of course. I would like to share some more details here.
Okay, actually, Markus,
Yes.
before you start, I did some homework for today.
Okay.
I talked to various production engineering customers, and I have brought with me a list of the pain points and questions that always came up in our discussions.
I'm getting afraid here.
So let me just mention 3 of them.
Sure.
How can you manage design changes? How can you do change management? And how can you reduce product complexity? Do you have some answers for us?
I do have some answers for you and for our customers. You actually did your homework, Maria. And if we look at the integration strategy that also Jakob touched on for SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, we can see 2 ways. One is actually the 6U3, the SAP PLM with direct CAD integration, and the other one is the external PLM systems. If you look at the first one, then SAP PLM product data integration connects to your CAD tools with SAP business processes. A plugin extends the CAD to store files in PDI and then derives an enterprise product structure in SAP Product Lifecycle Management. So once your product structure with your hierarchy of design items along with your respective 3D models is ready, then you can transfer the product data via product handover to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. This is the first process. Of course, if you look at the external PLM side, then we see that we also integrate via SAP Teamcenter, for example. We're working on an integration with Windchill. Also, there are others on the market we know. This is planned and this will come. And also, we work on the PLM system integration to support of your outbound scenarios for file federations. This is the overview of what we're working on in PLM at the moment.
This sounds really great. I also found that customers not only need to create bills of materials in an ERP system fast, they also need an efficient handover process and change management. Can you please shed more light on that?
Yes, with pleasure, Maria. And the handover and change management process is of course very relevant for those engineering customers. And in today's world, change is obvious and needs to be handled efficiently. Of course, let me explain the handover and change management process a little bit more in detail. So from a process overview, you can see that at first you create change records, then you assign BOMs and set the status. You can then submit a change request via workflow. Then, of course, somebody has to check and approve the requests. Then you implement the changes, and then you release the change. So this is the normal change management process here. So I would like to go into the process a little bit more. So here for the managed change records, I would like to show a little demo. So here we are in the app managed change records, and you can of course adopt the filter here also on header level. And here below you see the change records. Here we see one. And let's go into the change record to see more details. For example, the reason for change here, the general information about it. And then we come to the items. So you see the typical change management items here. Also, we have a log where you can see the changes, who has changed it. And when we go also here one step further into the item itself, you can also see the details here in the item level. For example, the material BOM. With that, we're going to come to the second step in the process. So we want to compare bill of materials, and I would also like to show that. Here in the app, compare bills of materials, you can see that I chose 2 materials, also a plant, and this is the most important step here. You have to set the comparison parameters. You can see there are tons of them, and in preparation of this demo, I actually just choose 3. And now we would like to compare those two bill of materials. And they're both multi-level. So we'd like to compare here two bill of materials in multi-level. So here you can see the multi-level comparison results, and you see the BOM 1 and BOM 2. And here you see the common components, for example, or the unique components. When we look at the comparison summary down here, we can see that the common components and unique components are listed. So by clicking on similar, we can see that those two BOMs have common components here, RM124 and RM20. Taking you to the next step in the process is actually submitting the change request. So let's take a look at that, how that looks like. So here we are back in the change record. You see the process routes. We're going to go to related apps and jump into my inbox. Here in my inbox, you can see the change request, and you can actually approve it or reject it. And in my case, I'm going to approve it. Yes, please go ahead. And once we submit that, then we can also go back into the change record. And here, the task is processed. And here in the process routes, you see the status completed and also approved, and also with the text showing who approved the change record, for example, and further details. Coming back to the process, the next step is actually the manage impact analysis models. So here, I would like to also show you a little short demo snippet. Here in the Managed Impact Analysis Models, you can go into the Impact Modeler, and here you see that we have set up objects, and with those objects you configured, you can then see the impact of your changes. Also here, we can also go into a list and see the constraints. I have not set up any constraints, but if you want to set up some constraints, that's of course also possible. Last step in our process is actually the Manage Change Masters, and here I also would like to show you a little thing in the app. So here in the Manage Change Masters app, you can see the Change Masters, and we just see here also the view settings. You can also then change those. And here you can also go into the details. And for example, the general information you see, the object types, as also seen in the change records, and then alternate dates are also possible.
It's really great to see the change management process within SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, Markus.
Thank you very much, Maria. Maybe one important thing to mention for our customers is that all change management capabilities I just showed, they are free of charge. So they are actually in the standard ERP license included. So I think that's also important
that
to know.
Is really great. Thank you so much. This looks indeed very helpful, but of course design and engineering alone will not be enough for a production company. So what can we really offer our customers on the production side? Maybe Jakob, you can tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a very good question, because I think especially the planning side, the production planning side, is an area where we have really shaped the standard and how it is done actually. And yeah, the talk is of course about material requirements planning, or short MRP. I think everybody who is into manufacturing knows that term. And as you can see on the slide here, if you look in the column in the middle, we don't only offer the standard material requirements planning, but we have extended it over time, right? We offer, for example, motions like demand-driven MRP, which allows you to approach the material requirements planning a little bit different, as well as predictive MRP, which nicely complements our, let's say, classical material requirements planning. All to really offer a strategic approach to doing your material requirements planning as good and as efficient as possible. And we have not stopped there, right? With the 2402, so the February release of S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, we actually rolled out and released the integration into our SAP Integrated Business Planning solution, which is our cloud-based planning solution. And with that, we really take this end-to-end planning cycle in the cloud to the next level. And talking is good, but showing is even better. So this is why I would also like to show this new integration in a quick demo. Before we go there, a little bit, let's say, technical background, what is happening in or as part of this integration. So actually, we start with basically replicating master data from S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition into IBP. So that holds true for the product master data, for the plants, and further aspects that are relevant to really do accurate forecasting on the integrated business planning side. Other data points we bring over are the sales order history, so that we get an idea or give IBP, let's say, data foundation to analyze how this product has behaved and sold in the past. And this is actually, the combination of this information is actually the starting point for integrated business planning to do its magic. It basically processes this data and in the end comes up with an optimized forecast that is then basically handed over back to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, where the actual material requirements planning, so basically matching this demand forecast with the required supply, takes place. And let us quickly jump into the system and give you an idea how that could look like in reality. So what you see here on the first screen is basically some tiles that are available in integrated business planning. And what we start with is basically clicking here on our dashboard tile. And that is basically, IBP has already done some analysis. It has taken the sales order history and has basically run an analysis that classifies and clusters the sales order history data according to different criteria that are relevant for forecasting. So for example, it has defined here the revenue segments or revenue clusters of the respective products, and also the variance of those products. Are they basically very constant in sales, or are there big, let's say, fluctuations in sales? Because all this information is in the end relevant to classify that product accordingly, to select in the end the best forecast algorithm. So you also see here on the upper right hand side, those two criteria of revenue and variance have basically been put into a matrix, and then you get different clusters of the product. That is then also enriched by time series analysis, where you see is that a product that is rather a seasonal one or rather a continuous one. And all this information is then basically used to come up with the best possible algorithm to create a demand forecast. And applying such a forecast algorithm then actually leads to what we all want to have, a demand forecast. And you see this demand forecast here in a very simplified way, right? It basically tells, okay, in this respective weeks, you will potentially need this quantity to be produced. We can then even break it further down and also adjust it according to let's say, more specific information we have on that particular day we want to implement this forecast, which we do here just for an example. And if we are fine with our forecast, then we basically hand it over back to the ERP. And this is why I think it makes sense also to quickly look here into the ERP world. And there basically you will see, if we go into our plant independent requirements, you will find exactly this forecasting data here in this maintain plant independent requirements view. So you see here the same weeks with the same numbers, with the same quantities that we have had entered as part of the forecast. And now we can basically start processing that from the ERP side. We can then, for example, use the predictive MRP that I was mentioning earlier, which is basically simulating the demand that we have entered against potential constraints from the respective plant where you want to do the production. And it basically then comes out with an information that says, well, if you want to produce all of that, you will potentially run into one capacity issue. And as the system is very smart, it not only tells us there will be an issue, it also helps us to resolve and analyze this issue. So if you, for example, click here into this interactive graphic, we will immediately see how big our capacity issue is and how that basically looks in a visualized form. And then we can select different options the system proposes to resolve this potential capacity issue. For the sake of the demo, we keep it simple. We say change available capacity, and the system immediately proposes us the quantity or the let's say, the percentage we need to change actually our capacity. And if we are fine with the system proposal, we can directly adopt this, apply it, and the result is we have 0 capacity issues while still having 100% delivery performance. So exactly what we wanted to achieve. And as we wanted to achieve that, the remaining step is basically to release this, and that basically then enters this new setting into our, let's say, MRP setup, and we can take it from there.
This is really cool, Jakob, and this shows how customers can benefit from the SAP portfolio overall and gain the most value for their businesses. But tell me one thing. When it comes to material requirement planning as the key pillar of production planning, is this something we consider table stakes, or do we still invest here?
Yeah, and that's also, let's say, very, very good observation, right? I think we are very mature, as you have also seen, as part of the demo and as part of what I said earlier. And of course, MRP is really the heart of logistics in ERP. So it's very important, it's very mature, and it works very fine. But that, of course, does not mean that we stop investing here. And I think it makes a lot of sense to ask someone who has much more experience and knowledge in MRP than I have, and hand over to a colleague from engineering who can answer or show the latest and greatest here.
Very well, Jakob. Let's do exactly that. Let me give the word to Kasia now. Hi, Kasia, again. Can you tell us more about the latest MRP developments, please?
Hi, Maria. Of course. Thank you. So for planners whose main task is to evaluate the MRP result, the SAP offers a set of the MRP material coverage apps. And these are also known as an MRP cockpit. And these apps not only take the advantage of theory to provide the planner with a modernized user interface, but also show the real-time result and moreover reflect the recent changes of the planning situation. So let me explain how the planner can evaluate the MRP results with the usage of the MRP cockpit apps. The concept of the MRP issues in monitor material coverage apps are the enhancements we have done to monitor material coverage apps net segment and net individual segment. This reflects the number of the additional columns, the navigations, and the colorings, everything to help the planner to evaluate the planning situation, to get the overview of the issues they might have, to review them, and, of course, to solve them easily. The MRP run and also the manual planning changes are changing the planning situation. And this new planning situation can be evaluated in different categories. These are the master data issues, the past due elements, the rescheduling proposals, the stock days supply and a days supply, as well as a note. Let me show you one category after the other. So let us start with the master data issues. For the materials, which are in the area of responsibility of the planner, the master data issues are indicating the errors, the warnings, and all the cancellations which might happen out of the MRP run per material. The planner can elaborate them further via the navigation to display MRP master data issue app. The second category are the past due elements. This indicates per material the number of the supplying MRP elements with either the opening date in the past, the start date in the past, or the end date in the past. It also gives the aggregated number of the supplying MRP elements which are past due per material. It's very important for the planner because the opening date and the start date, they are indicating the range of the conversion period, where the end date highlights the issue maybe of the late delivery of the purchase order. This is the last moment when the quantity should be available for the planning. Moving on to the further category, which are rescheduling proposals. The MRP might suggest the rescheduling, such as reschedule in, reschedule out, or even the cancellation of the process to better adapt to the shortage or to the new planning situation. This is very difficult for the planner to find out for which materials the rescheduling proposals have been done without going one material by the other. And just to solve this issue, we have proposing the rescheduling proposals columns. With the help of that, the planner can find out the materials with the rescheduling proposals very easily. The next category is the note. which is often used for capturing the planning notes or capturing the planning conversation. It is also important for the planner to see which materials are having the note available and just to evaluate it. The last category are the days supply and the stock days supply. These simply show the material coverage either based only on available stock per material or including all the incoming planned receipts. But which planned receipts are going to be included might be based on the shortage definition, which the planner specified for the material. Not only the numbers, but the material coverages are also offering the traffic lights, and the thresholds for these traffic lights might be defined based upon the days of supply in the maintained time-dependent stock levels. But so much in theory, let me show you the whole thing in a system. So, on the Fiori Launchpad, there are two apps monitor material coverage, net segments and net individual segments available for the planner. For the materials from the area of responsibility of the planner, there's a number of the additional columns which are offered for highlighting all the issues that might happen for the material. So let me start with the master data issues. For the materials with errors, warnings, or the cancellations, the master data issues are highlighted and the navigation enables the further elaboration of the issue and, of course, the possibility to solve it. Moving on to the next category, which are the past due elements. The additional columns are highlighting all the supplying elements per material which have opening, start, or end date in the past. The additional filter makes it easy for the planner to narrow down the selection and to find the materials with the issues in a specified category. The issues can be elaborated further in the managed material coverage and, of course, can be addressed and solved. Moving on with the rescheduling proposals. It was very difficult for the planner to find out for which materials the rescheduling proposals are available. But now, with the new columns, cancel process, reschedule in, reschedule out, it is possible to target these materials where the special rescheduling proposals has been offered by the MRP. The materials can be targeted and evaluated in the managed material coverage, and of course the reschedulings can be done. The next information is the material note availability. It is very important for the planner as they are capturing further information to see for which materials the note is available. It is also possible with a new column and with a new filter to narrow down the selection and to evaluate the note which has been captured per material. The note is available in managed material coverage, can be read, can be edited. The last category which I would like to mention are the days supply and the stock days supply. So not only the information about the material coverage is highlighted in the columns, but also the traffic lights with the appropriate thresholds. These thresholds can be addressed with the filters, so the planner can really target and narrow down the selection to the materials with special material coverage. Moreover, all the threshold values can be defined in the maintain time-dependent stock level app. This definition can be done specifically per material per time interval. So it's possible for each of the material to define the days of supply, the safety days of supply, and the target days supply as the threshold values. So for summing it up, the new monitor material coverage apps, new columns, new navigations, and the new coloring possibilities are offering the easy way for the planner to evaluate the MRP issues.
Thank you for the great MRP insights, Kasia. Now I'm turning to you again, Jakob. Now that we have all in place for planning, what about the execution part?
Yeah, absolutely. And we should definitely, you're right, we should definitely not forget about the execution part, because we have a lot to offer there as well, right? I think one thing that is definitely worth mentioning is the breadth of different manufacturing approaches we support out of the box, be it discrete manufacturing, be it repetitive manufacturing or process manufacturing. And on top, we also have enhancements to those processes, like, for example, Kanban replenishment or fully integrated quality management here. And finally, also worth mentioning is the tight integration into our own cloud-based manufacturing execution system, the SAP Digital Manufacturing Solution.
In the manufacturing execution phase, many customers look to further improve their productivity and savings while setting the stage for rapidly transforming operations, and some also adopting smart factories. In the beginning, I already mentioned that AI would play a role in this talk today, as AI is becoming a big factor for manufacturers in the execution phase. SAP's S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition technology, now often infused with AI, helps manufacturers manage mountains of data and form insights that inspire better decision-making. Markus, can you tell us about that?
Sure, Maria, with pleasure. Has been mentioned, what you have seen in the market is that topics like automation, robotics, or maybe even IoT, it is still important, but AI has sort of like out-hyped those topics now. And of course, AI is not the only technology that can solve that, but we at SAP, of course, in manufacturing, we're also thinking about use cases. And let me give you an example. So let's start this demo here. So here in the Manage Production Orders app, you can see we have 2 orders. And once we hit the button here, check availability, we can do the availability check. And we see we have some missing components. So the RM128 and one more. The one more would be actually here the RM120. Let's assume we go into the next step. So we have received the goods, the components, and now we do the availability check again, and we are getting no errors here. We are ready to go. So as a production planner, I can release those 2 orders. So you can see the status here changed to released. And also the progress in operation is actually at 0. So the next step would be actually on the shop floor. We would confirm the production operation here. You can see the yield. You can see if you would have scrap, you would also mention that here. Cost reasons in the ERP, but also the activities which come from the routings. And you can also, of course, leave a note here, for example, expert talk. So let's post and complete this. And with that, we have completed 1 operation, 0010. And you can also see that here in the Manage Production Orders app. So here you see partial confirmed and also the graphics comply. And also here in the details in the confirmation tab in the items, when we go 1 step further here, you can see that for this FG126, for this confirmation number and production order, we confirmed 3 pieces in this operation. So now, guys, you have seen a lot of manual work, right? Yeah. And our audience, of course, too. So what we're working on now in the near future is actually we want to roll out the Gen AI assistant for production order management.
Okay, let me stop you right there. What does that actually mean?
What does that mean? A very good question, Maria. So by using generative AI, you can verbally or textual communicate with the system. And also that means that you can create, update new production orders, for example, release them, as you have seen in the demo, or confirm them, or simply create reports. And I can also share some details here. And this is probably interesting for our audience. And let's roll that demo. So here we are actually in our new assistant, our AI, Gen AI assistant. And it's so friendly to ask me what I want to do. And you can read here what I actually want to do. And the Gen AI assistant created me a new production order here. You have seen it. Now I want to release it. As you've seen in the steps, the manual steps, I just say release and the system actually automatically releases it. Also, I want to post a confirmation, and by going here into the system, you can see that the system using AI capabilities actually confirmed it for me. I didn't have to go into the system. I just talked to our assistant and it worked. So now I talk and I would return the ID for all the orders. And here the next step would be also the material total quantity and production of plant order of this production order. And here the production order is seen by the general AI assistant and giving me all the details. Also, I can, for example, change a production order, so increase the total quantity. And the Gen AI assistant, of course, is helping me out and increasing the production order by 1, and it's now 15 pieces. So, it's also thanking me at the end. It's very nice talking to me very personally. So this is what we're working on. Those are the use cases, and this is what I could share with you today.
That is absolutely brilliant, Markus. Can customers already try it or use it?
Yes, customers can actually use it. Please contact us. We are in the beta testing phase, so please reach out to us. And we are eager to hear from you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for those insights. Now, in the beginning of this talk, I promised that we would debunk the myth that manufacturing and cloud ERP do not match. And I think we did just that. Kasia, Markus and Jakob, thank you so much for joining me today. And to our audience, thank you for watching this expert talk. Don't forget to like and share this video and feel free to leave a comment to let us know what you think about our discussion today. Check out the links in the description below and visit our community or drop us an email to insiders4@sap.com. Looking forward to seeing you next time.